What's going on, FA Nation? Welcome to Fantasy Lab DFS NBA live stream. John Impemba here with James Grande to preview Friday's main slate. James, you did the playbook today. You did the deep dive. You're the man with all the knowledge. How are you feeling about it today?
I'm feeling really good, man. We talked about this a lot last year. Like 6 to 9, 10 games is kind of our bread and butter. Tonight is a perfect slate. I mean, there aren't a lot of low totals. We have one game under 215. We have a ton of games in the upper 200s. And we really don't have many games that are projected to blow out. So, just looking at things, I feel really confident going into tonight, and I'm excited for the slate to begin in less than an hour.
Yeah, we have, like you said, we have a lot of highest totals, some close games, and some matchups that we're absolutely can't wait to get a hold of here as well. Before we do that, though, obviously there's injury news. So what are the big names that we're looking at tonight, James?
We just got news. We really were only waiting on a couple players as of a few minutes ago. We just got word that Bojan Bogdanovic will not play. Sorry, Justin Fensterman, if you're watching. I know you're super disappointed that he's not suiting up tonight. We haven't gotten official word on who's filling in for him. We're also waiting on Mitchell Robinson news. He's projected to play. Dave Fizdale said he thinks he's going to play, but he's unsure. We still haven't got the official word. We know Marvin Bagley's out. We know DeAndre Ayton's out. Isaiah Thomas is out. I guess Rondo is still, up in the air, but who cares? Cody Zeller's not playing. And we don't know who the Charlotte center is, which is going to be a wild ride.
If it's not Hernan Gomez and they're going that small,
even if it is Hernan Gomez,
true.
Karl Anthony Towns is opposing them. So that is going to be quite the interesting dilemma the Charlotte Hornets have. Good luck, Charlotte. Let's just get it out of the way. Plug and play Karl Anthony Towns, please, and thank you.
Yep, for sure. You do the playbook, like I said, so why don't we kind of go ahead and when you do the playbook, as we always say, we can't literally write about every player on the slate, or, what's the point of doing a playbook where we try to find our plays, but you do like to make it a point to list a few guys that didn't make the cut, but you still like them. Guys like Ja Morant tonight has a really good matchup. Elfrid Payton, if he starts, you like Barrett, who had a really good, opening day there for the Knicks in that matchup. Talk about some of the guys who have listed there. Is there one or two maybe that you really like more than the others that you think, are probably going to find their way into your lineups tonight?
I think Ja Morant in tournaments, I think he makes for a really interesting game stack. Like if you play Levine Markkanen, come back with a Ja Morant, I think that could be a really interesting little trio, considering neither of those teams are going to play any type of defense. And we've kind of grown accustomed to Memphis playing slow, John. They were the fastest paced team after their first game. It was actually pretty insane to see. If you're playing at that pace against a bad defense, I think there is tremendous upside, and we know Morant can stuff a box score. I mentioned Royce O'Neal with Bojan out. I think that the one thing that we've questioned about Utah in this entering the year was kind of their forward depth, and more specifically at power forward. I think they could play a smaller lineup. Obviously, not ideal considering the Lakers play two beanstalks at power forward and center. They have a rotation of 3 7-footers in Davis, Howard, and JaVale McGee. So, but we saw it work the other night in a different situation with Brent when the Pelicans started Brandon Ingram and he went for 41. It's just kind of a mismatch for the opposing team because, Royce O'Neal is going to be a little too quick. I would love to know if Mitchell Robinson is going to be out, because then we could just stack all of the Knicks. So I think all of them. Elfrid Payton at 4.7K on DraftKings is super interesting considering he's likely going to start tonight. And then Willy Hernan Gomez is a fantasy point per minute monster. They have no front court size at all. They need him at some point, whether he starts or doesn't. Obviously we prefer if he starts, but I think there is some merit to playing him either way, just as a GPP dart, because they need size to match up with Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And like you said, the size is huge there to go up against Towns. Well, let's start off at point guard here. On the podcast last night, I sort of made the bold claim that I think Kyrie Irving is going to be the first player to 60. If you play on DraftKings, they have the the missions there are awards, and one of them are having a 60-point player in your lineup. You get like 500 crowns. I think Irving can be that guy. Gets the Knicks at home. We saw him go for 50 on opening night. He's the show there in Brooklyn. He's going to take all the shots. I have him in my lineups tonight. He's my top point guard, but there are other guards that you like tonight. Why don't you kind of expand on maybe who your top point guard is?
So I think if you're talking about the top tier, I do think Kyrie is number one. I do think Damian Lillard is right behind him in a really good pace-up spot against Sacramento. And then I think Luka kind of, like, we're projecting him at a high ownership, but I'm wondering if that sticks. Like, considering we might get Kyrie versus Elfrid Payton or Dennis Smith, then Lillard against the Kings. Like, I wonder if people are going to be like, okay, why would I play Luka at 10K over on FanDuel when I can play these other two guys for significant, like, for not significantly cheaper, but I could save $300, $400. So I love all of them. I'm all in on Chris Paul tonight. I have essentially 100% Chris Paul. Again, people want to talk about all this stuff about Chris Paul in OKC or when he's not going to. It doesn't matter about what is next. He's currently in OKC, and they get a Washington team who's not going to defend. They have Ish Smith starting at point guard. Chris Paul played 30 minutes, was really, really solid, and he had 3 assists and he's a guy who's averaged 9.7 assists for his entire career. So there are going to be anomalies that balance out tonight. I love Chris Paul all formats. I think he's maybe point per dollar my favorite point guard. I think Terry Rozier has a really good bounce back game. Still played 30 minutes. He had good peripheral stats. He just didn't shoot the ball well. And I don't think
problem sometimes is
right.
Right.
Of course, but they didn't pay him the money to not have him on the floor. And he didn't close that game, and he still played 30 minutes, which is a clear indicator that he's still their guy. I just think they went a different route, and it worked out for them. Rubio's a tournament play, complete dart, because I mean, they're playing a really tough Denver team, but we do like to attack Denver at the point guard position. I don't think there's a lot of true value at point guard. I think your best bet is to get one of the top 6 guys. I mentioned Morant, and then Elfrid Payton at 4.7 over on DraftKings is a solid price as well.
Yeah, Payton is starting. They did just release the Knicks starting lineup. Mitchell Robinson is in the starting lineup tonight. Does that? I guess we'll get to it as we go there. But do you have interest in Payton in that lineup?
I think DraftKings specifically, and I know I want you to cover your eyes because it's a roller coaster ride with Elfrid Payton, but 4.7K, I'm okay with him in cash games tonight. It's Kyrie Irving.
I know.
It's Kyrie Irving, and we just saw the Timberwolves and score like 130 points. Yes, granted, there was overtime. I'm just saying, I think there is merit at that is really, really cheap for a guy who can literally do everything.
Yep, I agree with you. We'll move on over to shooting guard. And I actually want to start at the bottom here with the value because we do have a question in chat about it. Josh Hart, our boy Sean Mitchell over there, he was all over him opening night. He got 0 price movement. He's still $3,200 over on DraftKings. Gets Dallas here. Is he your top overall value play tonight on the board, or are there other other value plays that you have interest? Where does he rank for you in your lineups at shooting guard tonight?
I mean, I don't think he's my top value on the board. I think he's definitely the top value at shooting guard. I think it's very, very hard to ignore 3.2K over on DK. I mean, the only negative mark on his resume is that the Pelicans play 15 guys, or at least that's what we saw the first night. He's a good rebounder. He's not a 10 rebound per game kind of guy, so that obviously could balance out.
But there are rebounds to grab though. With that
there are definitely, and that was gonna be my next point. Like there is definitely merit. Like even if he got us 5 or 6 rebounds, that's 7 or 8 fantasy points. And at 3.2K, we're looking for 16 for 5x in cash. So even on FanDuel at 4.4, I think he's fine. I think the floor is nice and safe. I would lean Bielitsa in terms of value plays on the board. I think he's my top value, and I think the industry is going to follow suit with that play, considering he's starting and Hart's not, or at least we don't think he's starting. So I think Bielitsa is, but Hart's definitely like the core shooting guard because it's not a very good position. I think, honestly, I think Levine is probably your next best bet. I think considering what we saw him in terms of shooting the basketball and he still put up 40 fantasy points, I think that shows a lot about how his floor is going to be this year because he's going to be a 25-5 guy, and I think that's perfect for cash games. So
he used to complain that he didn't give you enough peripheral stats. Then night one, he popped out with 7 boards, 6 assists. So, look out if he's really going to be, contributing across the board. Justin Fensterman's starting 5 video had him in there as well. He's a cover guy, cover image for the starting 5 video. So seems to be a FA Nation sort of consensus here on Levine. You were in on Kyrie Levert the other night as well. We talked about him on the podcast. We like how he was last year before the injury. We worried maybe a little bit with Kyrie, but like you said before, Kyrie does need at least a secondary scoring option, and Levert was that guy going up against the Knicks, so we know don't play any defense. Are you back in on the Levert train here? He's in your playbook. How strongly do you like him tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I called him the Robin to Kyrie's Batman in the playbook. I think there's like that we talked about it last night on the podcast. There is like a group of those guys that I like a lot. Like it's him, Van Vliet, Dwayne Bacon, Gilgeous-Alexander, RJ Barrett. They're all similarly priced on FanDuel, mostly on DraftKings as well. I just lean Levert because he's probably the best at doing everything. Look, he is a very good defender. He's very good in the passing lanes. He's a really good passer, which we know Kyrie is more of a scorer, so Levert can play like the de facto point guard when Spencer Dinwiddie isn't on the floor when he's playing with Kyrie. So I think there's just more peripheral stats to go to Levert, and if he's giving us 16 to 20 points, which we can definitely see, he's an elite play, even at 6'9". I mean, I think there's still 7 or 8x value upside there. Yeah. So I do like Levert quite a bit still. And again, Knicks were like 25th in defensive efficiency last year. It's not like they went out and got a bunch of great defenders. I mean, who did they add that's like Marcus Morris is a good defender, but he's likely going to guard RJ Barrett here. So who is guarding Kyrie Levert? I don't know. I really like Kyrie Levert here.
Yeah, that's perfectly okay. Any other highlighting shooting guards that you have maybe on your radar?
Drew Holiday in tournaments, I think, is in for a nice bounce back. I think that's more of like you play Luka, Porzingis, and come back with Drew Holiday.
Okay, I can definitely get behind that for sure. Going over to small forward, where's your top plays there?
Definitely the worst position on the board. I think that's safe to say. I think if you're spending up, like obviously you could play LeBron. He did make my playbook. I don't think I need to sit here and tell you that LeBron James is a bad play because he's not. I mean, it's LeBron. Didn't make my playbook though. I think my top small forward. I should preface it by saying small forward on FanDuel is Pascal Siakam. I think he's going to be a mismatch nightmare, not for just your Celtics, just for everybody throughout the year. If for the first game wasn't an indication of that, I think tonight is going to be. And I don't think he's going to be very highly owned at 8,900. So I have some tournament interest there. Brandon Ingram, another guy, tournament interest. I don't love that he's going to be guarding most likely Porzingis. But again, we saw a kind of mismatch against Siakam, and he still put up 40 fantasy points. The usage is just there. He had a 34% usage rate with the starting 5. Led the team, almost 1.5 fantasy points per minute in the first game, too. So I think that's kind of elite. Oubre is solid. I think he's I don't know if you agree, John, but I think he's the second scorer on that team now, right? Without Ayton?
I think even before Ayton, I still think he should have been considered probably the second scorer there. I think that's a pretty fair assessment for what his upside could certainly be, in this matchup and on that team. So,
and he didn't get a price bump on DK. He's still 5.7. So I think that's something that you take advantage of. Marcus Morris, we've both touted him on the podcast. I think even with Mitchell Robinson, he's fine because he gave us all the scoring, and Mitchell Robinson isn't coming into the lineup to score. He's doing the other stuff. He's blocking shots, protecting the rim, grabbing rebounds. So I think Marcus Morris is still fine. I think he's still going to be – him and Julius Randle are probably their two primary scorers. And then I mentioned Nemanja Bjelica. He's the chalk play of the slate. Just play him in cash. You can fade him in tournaments because obviously he busts. You're not going to win $100,000 or whatever tournament you're entering tonight. And then Will Barton. We had this discussion off air, me, you, and Sean, about Barton being cash versus GPP, and he's always been a GPP play, and it's not. I'm not like suddenly like just putting blinders on, but I think I said this a lot last year. Sometimes we let the slate dictate who we play, and I think this matchup, this atmosphere in Denver, Barton's accustomed to the air. It's against a bad Phoenix defense and an up-tempo matchup for Denver. They have the highest total second highest total on the board. And he's starting, which, we're not used to seeing either. So I think there's merit to playing him in all formats. And I think in cash, we're going to get him at low ownership at a very thin small forward position.
I always have the issue where I think this matchup could get out of hand. I mean, it is the highest, I think, spread on the board as well. And I think last I saw it was 12. Yeah. So, I mean, you're looking at Phoenix on the road, 12-point dog. If it becomes a blowout, are the starters or are the primary 8 guys on Denver going to be the ones that get that run? And then you're putting in an already sort of risky Will Barton, even though the matchup is good, in a cash game and a blowout scenario. So for me, all of Denver is a GPP play tonight, even though the matchup is as good as it is. Again, when we hit on center, guys like Jokic and stuff like that, it seems like they don't pay off their price tags as much. I think it was a more competitive matchup. I'd have interest here, but like you said, Denver, tough place to play. Phoenix down one of their better players. It can be struggle city for them.
Okay, and I understand that, and ultimately, you're right. You're right. It's just such a grotesque position that, like, there's just some things that have to, like, that just fall in our lap, and I'm taking advantage of. Like, we could play Marcus Morris at like basically the same price tag. So I mean, that's your pivot off Barton if you really don't want to play him in cash.
Yeah, I agree with you. If you're running on over to power forward here, we have Anthony Davis projected for like 70 fantasy points. How are you feeling about AD here against Utah, knowing that we're going small, playing Bojan at power forward? Now they can put Ingles in the starting lineup. He's not big enough. Could be Jeff Green. Could be Ed Davis. Like, where are you going here? Is Anthony Davis your top spend up? Are you looking at him tonight, knowing what the matchup the Towns has? Like, how are you juggling him?
I mean, it's not a cash play, especially at 12K over on FanDuel. I don't like that price tag, John. I mean, we need 60, and obviously he's very capable of that every single night. But we also have to factor in there's LeBron there. Like, LeBron could be the guy getting 60, and Davis is the one taking the backseat. We just don't know on a nightly basis. Like, do I think Davis is the better fantasy producer on a nightly basis? Yes. I think he does more like blocks, especially on FanDuel, and that's obviously why his price tag is so high, because he provides such good numbers in the blocks and steals category, especially for a big man in steals. So I think he's an elite tournament play, but is he my favorite power forward? No. I can go down and save $4,000 and get Lauri Markkanen, who took 25 shots and gave us 60 fantasy points. I can go down and go to Kristaps Porzingis, who we talked about, like, he gave us the points. He's a rebound and block, like, not specialist, but he's a guy who can average double-digit rebounds and 2 to 3 blocks a game, and he barely gave us any of those. And now he gets a massive pace-up spot against a really short in stature Pelicans team. So, like, I would rather go down, and I'll even throw Julius Randle in, because his hat, even with Mitchell Robinson, because they don't have scoring. So, like, I would rather spend down on those guys. I almost don't believe the ownership projection on Davis. Maybe that's only because it's name value. People are just like, Anthony Davis, I see his name, and you like put the blinders on no matter who they're playing. Because I would consider it more of like a leverage pivot, playing Davis against like Gobert and the Utah Jazz. Like, I feel like his ownership, this is one of those matchups where you get him at a lower ownership. I just prefer those other three in the middle tier more. And I think there's also a lot of, like, this power forward value, John, is probably going to make or break the slate. I'll throw that out there right now.
I mean, you mentioned Bielitsa's power forward only on DraftKings. If you're going to go there, I mean, he's a guy you're obviously taking a hard look at. And then if Daniel Tice ends up being the starting center for Boston tonight, well, then you have him at power forward as well, also near min price. So, yeah, you're not wrong. Definitely a ton of value there. Again, I definitely like Porzingis. I played him the other night. I'm waiting for those peripheral stats to really come through for us. And the thing you noted on Randall, like even though Robinson is playing, how many times last year did Robinson pick up 4 fouls right away? You know, like is he going to be limited anyway? So I'm still buying in on the Julius Randle here. Maybe he doesn't go for 55 again, but 40 plus I think is still well within his range. I mean, the guy showed a lot last year in New Orleans, so I'm definitely a big fan of that call there. Let's just go to center now and talk about what we both consider to be the best play of the slate, Karl Anthony Towns. He just absolutely torched the Nets the other night, 73 fantasy points. Now he goes against a Charlotte team who all of last year we targeted opposing centers and big men against, and that was when they had Cody Zeller playing. Now they don't even have him playing. They don't have Biyombo. Maybe they'll have Hernan Gomez. If not, they're going super small. Maybe Peter Washington is starting or Marvin Williams is at center. Like it's going to be gross. So you have that total now with Towns in this spot here. Top price play over on, I think it was FanDuel, right? And then second on DraftKings. How much ownership do you have of Towns tonight? We have him projected for over 30.
If you're multi-entering, I understand pivoting elsewhere on DraftKings. But, like, when you go to the center position on FanDuel, I mean, Jokic is too expensive over on FanDuel. The only, like, really true other play, like, really strong tournament play is probably Hassan Whiteside on FanDuel. So, on FanDuel, I have damn near 100%. And now I guess things could potentially change, like, if we got news Robert Williams is starting. Maybe then you build some Robert Williams lineups. Maybe we find out Willie Hernan Gomez is starting. You build some Hernan Gomez lineups. So there's potential for other starters, other people that like I personally have as center on FanDuel. Right now, it's Towns, or it's like 90% Towns, 10% Whiteside.
Yep, I'm sort of in that same play. I'm not going with Jokic. I know, again, the matchup is great. If they put Aaron Baines, I mean, Baines is considered a really strong defender, and
right.
And while he's not, a notable talent name in terms of the offensive end, I mean, the Celtics used him on guys like Embiid and whatnot last year, so they're not afraid, to shy away from what his talent is. And Baines is starting tonight. He could be another value center potentially if you think he's going to get the minutes over the, who's the backup behind Baines there? Kaminsky, right? So I mean, Kaminsky or Jokic would be obliteration.
A nightmare.
Yeah, so for me, I'm not on that one. The Whiteside definitely a call I had a lot of interest in as well. And then you mentioned, Robert Williams last year per 36 averaged 5 blocks a game. I think at most him and Tice probably split the minutes there. When they go Ibaka, they'll probably put Tice in because I think that would fit more of the range game. And if they're got Gasol in there, could very well be Williams because he's more of a stay-at-home player. So it'd be interesting to see exactly how the breakdown goes. Lineup should be coming out in 5 minutes, right? New NBA rule, 30 minutes before lock. So all those 7 p.m. games, hopefully we'll be releasing lineups shortly, and we'll have a lot of those answers for you. James, any final thoughts here? We got a couple minutes left on the stream. Anything you're sort of leaning more? Any games you're stacking tonight?
Games I'm stacking, I think Portland Sacramento is going to be one that I really like. I mean, especially in those Whiteside lineups. Every Whiteside lineup I have, I'm pairing with Damian Lillard. I think that's an excellent spot for the both of them. There's going to be no one to box down Hassan Whiteside. I mean, we're relying on literally nobody. I mean, Nemanja Bjelica is their starting power forward. Is he going to get a rebound over Whiteside? No. And I think coming back with Bjelica, coming back with someone that I think we should just mention because there are a couple more values at power forward in Rashawn Holmes, who's projected to be very popular, and Marvin Williams, who Sean wrote up in the Value Vault, who has played against Towns, like matchup-wise. They've matched Marvin Williams up against Towns in the past. So we saw Williams have a really good game. I mean, they're depleted. There's no Zeller, there's no Batum, so their forward depth is really hurting right now. I can see Marvin Williams playing a really extended role here. If he starts, I'm willing to use Marvin Williams probably in all formats, considering the pace, considering the matchup. I think there's a lot of there's a lot of opportunity in that game. I'm more lukewarm on Rashawn Holmes. And I know you're the Rashawn Holmes whisperer, so like if you have a stronger take on him, be my guest. But like I guess I see it because they need rebounding against Whiteside. Like they need somebody to go. Dedmon is not going to last, and neither is Nemanja Bjelica. So I see where they're coming from. But like we've said about multiple guys already, Rashawn Holmes might come in, pick up 5 fouls in 4 minutes, and then be out of the game. And it's very hard to predict that, but that's like Rashawn Holmes' identity. So very lukewarm on him.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, Rashawn Holmes is who he is. It's not like I have a stronger take on him. He's going to play max 22 minutes, and those 22 minutes you get 2 or 3 steals, 3 blocks, 5 rebounds, and 6 points, and there you go. He'll also probably foul out in that same span. So probably. that's his upside. We do have a lot of ownership on him tonight, projected right now. We'll see if that updates as we get closer to the lock or not. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting matchup. We do have another question here, real quick in chat. Elfrid Payton, Jamal Murray, Ricky Rubio, FanDuel GPP lineup.
I'm gonna go Elfrid Payton. I like that he's starting. We loved attacking Kyrie defense all last year with a good defense behind him in Boston, and we still took advantage of that. There's no good defense behind him, especially the fact that like DeAndre Jordan's not playing. Jared Allen played 37 minutes. By the way, 37 minutes to Jared Allen. We know what to do, guys. Yeah. Attack Brooklyn centers. So I'm going to go Elfrid Payton there. Even though he's $1,000 cheaper or $1,000 more, like he's like $5,700, I believe, on FanDuel without looking. He's $4,700. I prefer the $4,600 on DraftKings, but I would go Elfrid Payton there.
Do you have any interest in Craig if Denver ends up in a blowout situation?
Yeah. Yes. He already played 24 minutes in that first game, and he was very productive. We saw him last year in a regular role with Denver, so. Yeah, I could get behind Torrey Craig. I think just like Torrey Craig, Jeremy Grant could be another one that is interesting in tournaments.
Maybe if you really want to play the blowout game, could be a min.
Yeah, I mean, all those backups that we've seen produce at high levels for Denver because they've all done it. Even Plum Dog, we've seen them all perform at high levels. I think all of them are GPP darts, but viable ones at that.
Yep, I agree with you. That does wrap up the live stream. Everybody will be in subscriber chat answering your questions up until roster lock, so definitely fire those away. You can get us on Twitter if you want questions. We're there to answer. James, final thoughts before we go.
Lineups are going to come out in about 5 minutes. I'm just touching some things up with some recent news, and yeah, I'm excited. Let's win some big bucks tonight, boys.
I hear you.
Let's win some big bucks.
All right, everybody. We'll talk to you later.
Later, guys.